Hey Bernard. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of feedback here on this. Sorry, this is gonna be a little clumsy. I'm using a mouse, and I'm gonna have to try to draw on parts of this. Also, sorry if the audio is terrible. I'm in the process of getting a new mic. Um, so let's talk just a little bit about. Overall, I think this is working pretty good. You got a lot of really neat stuff going in here. Let's use red because red is different. Obviously, this hand is looking awesome, and I think that you're doing some pretty neat stuff with the edges back here along the back of his jacket. Again, I think we talked about this a little bit in class, but I mean, it's stuff just like if you just had just a little tick mark here, would that lead? And it doesn't even have to be a tick mark like that. It could be like whatever color this is. Let me see if I can get a little closer to that. If that just sort of extended down and around his back a little more, that would just sort of draw this invisible line between these two pieces and connect that. You got a lot of really neat stuff about like how to find that ear in this missing piece here, you know. So there's a couple of little spots. So I mean, you got a lot of those things going on, but there's a couple of little spots where I'm having trouble kind of making out some of the forms that are in here. So let's talk about those relatively quickly. Um, the spots that strike me as somewhat kind of lost or confusing, uh, one is right here. I just don't know. It kind of makes it feel like he has a little bit of a wrinkle in the back of his neck. The other one, and I think we talked about this one earlier, is just sort of this area here. And I think there's a couple of things going on here. I think that you have so many coinciding little lines that crisscross there that it's just getting confusing about what is happening like right there. Like there's just so many since you're trying to indicate stuff without actually having to draw it. So like, is the bottom of his chin there? Is the bottom of his chin there? And if the bottom of his chin is here, that distance feels too short to me. Like that, it feels like his jawbone's missing. So my suspicion is that his jaw is like something like that, right? And then that feels right. Maybe a touch higher or something in some of these spots, but I'm just not finding it. Like there's not the lines that are indicating it. And there's a chance that it's just this ray coming out through here that's kind of obscuring that a little bit. So just something in here to kind of indicate where the lower jaw is unmistakably. And if it is here, then I think that that's too short. I think it needs to come down a little bit more. Um, Another area I'm kind of losing it just a little bit is right here. I'm kind of just not seeing what is happening in this area right here, and I know that you get this bright light that's kind of shining there, but it's just like a hint or something would really kind of help that. I'm fine with the hand. I'm fine with this thing, uh, and I actually kind of like just overall what's going on in the jacket. Uh, there's So this is throwing a big wrench in this book. There's an interesting thing happening with your lighting, though, which is this is your source of light shining this way, yet this is where all the shadows are, which means it's implying that in the actual image, the source of light is over here, casting this way. I don't know what that's supposed to be. It's like an arrow or something. So because you got these highlights here, you have all of this section of his face lit up. So it feels like it's supposed to be like straightforward shining at him. I guess if this is like far forward, if this hand was really far forward, then it makes sense to you. Like it's like shining on the front of his face and his nose and all that is what's casting this. But that's just a little. I don't know what to say about that. Like I feel like if I toss that out as a piece of feedback, it means crap. What do I do? Start over? Like I don't like how do you go back and fix that? And so I don't know if it's such a major fix that you have to worry about it too much. Um, no, let me not phrase it that way. I don't know if the problem means you have to start over or do something drastic drastic like that. I think it's more of like just think about what this is communicating and if you're alright with that being what you're communicating. So another question is, could you, since we're in vector, could you chop out all of this hand and image here and instead kind of scale him up, make his head like here, his shoulder here, flip this and have his hand something more like this. Like that is completely uninterpretable. I know that's terrible. So let's try drawing that again. So we got move his head over, got shoulder, shoulder, shoulder maybe comes out a little bit more. And then, sorry, I'm just trying to draw with the mouse. And then the light maybe is something more like this. And, maybe move this whole thing over, scale it up a little bit, whatever. Like, is that an alternative? I don't know. I'm just playing with some ideas here. I like the framing. I like the layout quite a bit. But I think that there's some stuff you could think about there in order to kind of achieve the lighting you're going for here. In terms of, we didn't really talk about this in class very much, but there's something called the rule of thirds. Because if we chop this image up into thirds, we got top, middle, upper, and then chop it in thirds this way as well, which that's not very clean thirds. You can make images really interesting by having things coincide on these meeting points. Okay, and so I think you could probably push some stuff around if you're really wanting to rework the composition in this. You can push some stuff around and make those kind of coincide with those rules of thirds, whether it's the light hitting here and his face hitting here, or his face hitting here and the light hitting here. I don't know. There's a couple of. I'm sorry, you're probably making fun of me for calling it a light. I'm sure it has a name in the show, and I haven't watched the show. But there's some things you could do to kind of work a little bit with the composition using the rule of thirds to kind of get that. Last little thing I would say is I think you got some really some of the things I really like about this are these highlights here, here, and what they do for the image, right? It really pops out this strong lighting. And then that just kind of disappears in his upper face. You get a little bit here, a little bit on his ear, and then there's like two little dots and some of this here. But I mean, like, why is there not one like here or here or something like that to kind of pop out sort of some of the forms in his face? So maybe go back, look at the image, and see if there's a spot that you could kind of just add a little bit of that, because those are just some really nice interest points that just the way that highlight happens there is what adds almost all of the texture to his jacket. Like some of these lines, meeting in different ways help too, but like it really does help like bring out some of the form because of the highlight, and you're just not getting very much highlight on his face or hair. And so I think just having just a little bit of that here and there really could help. Like I don't necessarily know what specifically to add, but like would that really? I know it's the wrong color, but would that bring out more of the hair, or more of the form in the face? Like would that? That's a bad. Maybe like even something like that. I don't know. Like you have to look at the image and find the best spots to put those. But will that really start popping out parts of the form of his face? And then the last thing is his eyes are really just dark and sunken in there, and I get what you're going for. Like I get that that's like kind of the feel of that, like shining a flashlight up at your face, so you get those dark sunken eyes that are kind of creepy. But I just wonder what you could do to add just a touch of meaning to some of those shapes. I may be wrong. You may go in here and add some highlights or some touches of stuff somewhere in his face. And I'm not saying a lot. I'm not saying even all of this out. I get that this is supposed to be dark. This is supposed to be light. Just a touch to kind of add a little bit more detail to it, or a little bit more definition to it, because you've got such good stuff going on in the hand. I mean, this feels much more vague. Um, like after you get that stuff in, maybe you don't have to revisit the eyes. Maybe the eyes sort of solve themselves. But that's the question then. Does that do too much to the eye? And if so, just like that, does that do too much to the eye for what you're wanting to get that sunken feeling? Right now, they feel like they're a slightly different style than some of the other stuff, because that's really the darkest color I think you have in the entire thing. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe leave that in there. Is it the darkest color? I think it is. I don't think that and that are the same color. So that just really pulls them back in there and kind of uh, makes you question, could you do something just to sort of pop out, not even pop them out, just kind of accent them. So like if you have black with a really thin white line around them, I mean, does that really de-emphasize the black? Or I don't know. I just kind of think about it. I think his face flattens out where the rest of this is feeling a little bit more full. So that would be my main comment on that. Hopefully this is helpful and you're able to hear it. Let me know if you have any questions, and everybody else in this class, please help Bernard out as well. He needs some more feedback. I know that he's actively asking for it, and so I'd appreciate people kind of chiming in as well. So thanks. Talk to you soon.